Hello and welcome to That's So Nova. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. Today we're going to be doing a new Oro Rosa pattern called the Nettie clutch wallet. It is very, very cute and it comes together brilliantly. I love the way it comes together. You can use a lot of different materials, and I think this is a perfect everyday bag, or if you want to make it a nice little clutch for a going out evening bag, you can do so. So the bag is about 9.5 inches wide, 5 inches tall, and about 1 inch deep. So you can make it with a wristlet strap or a wristlet strap, and or you could just not have the strap and have it as a wallet. So in the pattern, there is the anatomy of the bag and has all the measurements of the pieces you need. And as you can see in the pattern, we have let me move my cart full of goodies. We're going to have the flap, the main panel, the gusset. We're going to have the lining. There's 2 credit card slots that we're making in this one, and a zipper pocket and a wristlet and a gusset. So we're going to get started, and I'm kind of excited. You could break this down into 4 different pieces. Please follow the interfacing instructions and make sure that you keep all interfacings out of the seam allowance so it doesn't get too thick and bulky. Today I'm sewing on my Juki 5550N. That's the equivalent to like the Juki QVP minis, except I just have a servo motor that's on the outside of my machine rather than an inside. I'm using a 116 organ needle. I couldn't find any of my 9014s or my 90s. I have no idea where it is. And I'm using 40 weight thread from Waywack. It's their Saba brand. And if you're a longtime viewer of this channel, you know I absolutely love me some Saba thread. So we're going to start by putting together the flap exterior, the flap. So on the flap, there are some crucial points where you're going to need to mark, to make some markings. And I'm going to get my flap. I'm using cotton today throughout the whole bag. My wristlet will be cork, but the whole bag is pretty much just cotton. When I do have a different position of the bag, I will like something different. I think I have waterproof canvas on one side, not the credit card slot. On one side, and I will let you know. So here's my 2 flat pieces. I need to install the male part of the magnet. I can't talk today. So I'm going to take my pattern piece and I'm going to make a marking on it so that way I know where I need to put it in. And it came through. Perfect. And I'm going to grab my magnet. And I'm switching it up a little bit. I'm using a rivet magnet. Normally I use those on like different types of wallets, but I wanted to see how this will work with this particular fabric. And let me get the male portion. And they're really cool. They come in like a little rivet and it works out really cool. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to punch a hole through my fabric because I'm not making slits. And because my lining is cotton, I am going to put some fray check right on the hole on the front, because the back is interfaced with a sew fuse, so it's not going to fray, but this little area can. So I'm just going to put some fray check, and then I'm going to get my cam snap. I've been really into using the cam snap for putting in rivets. I think it's just such a cool idea. And I'm going to thread my rivet to the machine, and then you can use a lot of different things. You can use Peltex, you can use scraps of woven interfacing. I'm going to use a couple of plastic washers so that this does not pull through. I get my plastic, they're called silicone washers at Amazon. Everything's Amazon, right? going to put this in. And then I'm going to set the rivet. Now we have a cute little rivet. And I want to make sure, because one time I didn't put enough pressure and it popped right off and I was really upset at myself. So once we have these two parts put together, once we put we're going to attach the lining to the main exterior. We're going to put some clips, line them up. And I like to put clips around along the top and a few at the bottom just to make sure nothing gets shifting. We're going to sew at 3/8 of an inch all from the top down, across, up, and here. We're going to leave this open. So we're going to start at that small little curve. And I'm using, again, 40 weight thread. We're just doing at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to do a couple stitch forward. And I'm going to do a few stitches to have one stitch off that goes off of the machine, so that way I could just really lock it in and take my time. And if you do need to pivot, make sure your needle is down. Need to do one more stitch. Take your time and make sure you breathe. And if you put in a magnet, make sure you put some duct tape or electrical tape on the back of the magnet so that it does not rub against the lining and make more wear and tear over time. It just helps prevent it. All right. Gonna trim these threads and take the clips to the side. All right, and then we're going to trim around the edge. I'm going to grab some pinking shears and have at it. I'm going to trim up with pinking shears about 1/8 of an inch around. Make sure not to cut into your seam allowance. Not your seam allowance, your stitching. If you accidentally do it, you can go 1/8 of an inch above the row that you currently made and then trim it out. It makes it easy if you just tell yourself, don't trim my stitching. It happens all the time to me. So we're going to turn this right sides out. Okay, you're going to hear me say a lot today about ironing. Whatever you do, do not iron over your magnet. It can demagnetize it, and that will be unfortunate if you get it all nice and pretty and get it all situated correctly, and then now the magnet's not barely connecting. So just be a little caution with that. Oh, this is going to come out super cute. I love this print. And I'm just making sure I poke out all the corners really well. And it looks really good. All right, so then we're going to, you could press this from the lining side if you wish. If you do press it, again, be cognizant over the magnets. And now we're going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch. And I just want to make sure that my lining is not peeking out. I accidentally do that a lot. I'm just going to back stitch once. Take your time. I'm just giving my lining a nice little tug up so that way it's not trying to poke out. And if you have to readjust anything, needle down. And I'm just going to take my bone folder tool that I use for bookbinding and just poke out this area a little bit more because it was kind of collapsing on itself. And I do suggest after every time you stitch, if you're using cotton on the exterior and the interior, to press. It will help you with your end result. If you're only using cotton for the lining, you can press from the lining side as well. All right, so we're gonna trim those threads. So we have a nice little flap. We're going to take 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape. I'm using, this one's not super sticky, but it gets the job done. I'm going to be using this 1/8 of an inch and putting it right on the top of my flap, right on the right sides, not the, I mean on the exterior sides. And then I'm just going to, because when I use cotton, sometimes the double-sided tape does not want to stick very well. So I just like to give it a couple rolls or finger press it really hard. And then I'm going to put that on the side. I'm going to go grab our exterior body piece. And I'm going to go put in our female magnet. So you got to figure out what the top, if you have a coordinating, like a directional print, you want to see when this folds, is this the what I want to see? And this is exactly what I want to see. So I'm going to work from this side and I'm going to measure down 3 3/4 of an inch. Just get my little marking tool. Make sure you're centered. And just to make sure you're even extra center, what I like to do sometimes is just fold it on half on each other and see if that becomes the center mark, and it is. So I'm going to grab my hole puncher and kind of squish this. It's flat iron, not flat iron, but it's pressed so nice. But I usually would use my my press. I have a drill bit press that I would punch a hole in, but it is too big to bring to the table. So here we are. We have to do it another way. Don't worry, I'll give this a nice press at the end. We're going to install the female, and I'm going to remove my dies on my cam snap, because if you put the wrong die on, it can dent up your press, and that would be super unfortunate. You don't want that. So I'm getting the female portion, and I'm getting my rivet. You can get these at Cam Snaps. You can get them at Cereal Bag Maker. You can get them anywhere. They just became like one of my favorites right now. It's easy to put together. It's super secure, and I just like the way it looks. And I'm going to thread it through, and I'm just going to grab some clear washers, a few, just to make sure that this won't poke out. Throw the cap on there. And then kind of roll this up so that way I can get to this. And I'm going to feed it in and press it. And these magnets are strong. It's like it's trying to stick to the original, to the die. So I have that on. On your main panel, right sides up on your work area, measure 1 1/4 of an inch on the back piece. Okay, so this is the front. You want to measure away from here. So 1 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to do that. For this video, I'm going to use a pink Choco pen, but normally I would use white. I don't know if white would show up on here really well. So I measure down 1 1/4 of an inch. And we want to take our double-sided tape, remove the paper from the DST, even though my paper does not want to come off. And then we want to center. So what I like to do sometimes is draw the center mark on there. White shows up. Yeah, it does show up. Not probably as bright as the pink. And I just want to find the center real quick on this. And we're going to lay this down. Make sure your ruler does not shift, and lay it down right on the DST. So I'm going to line up my ruler, make sure everything doesn't shift, make sure that the middles meet, and line it up. Nice and neat. All right, so on this panel, we're going to carefully sew a straight edge 1/4 of an inch. Now you can draw, because we're kind of at a disadvantage, so you can take your chalk pencil and draw 1/4 of an inch line so that it's easier to follow. Or a heat erasable pen. I live in Maryland, so when it gets really cold, sometimes those marks like show up, or sometimes like it'll have like a weird white line, and it's from that. So we're going to sew, and I want you to make sure you back stitch well, and only sew on the flap. We're just trimming. All right. And I'm just going to trying to brush off the chalk marks. All right. So, I backstitched, and you were supposed to pull tails to the back. I'm sorry. So when you do the 1/4, you want to have long tails on both sides so you can pull the threads to the back and tie it off. I backstitched, but I'm going to show you how to, for this next step, I'm going to pull my thread. We're going to fold this flap over, and we're going to sew 3/8 of an inch. So again, I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to measure 3/8 of an inch on this flap. I'm using chalk, and I'm going to get long tails, and I'm sewing 3/8 of an inch, and I did not backstitch because we're going to pull these tails to the back so it can be a nice clean finish. And this encloses the raw edges. All right, when you stop, pull, if your machine wants you to, pull the threads, get long tails, and then you're going to take this to the back, and you're going to pull on the bobbin thread. And I usually like to grab a needle for this. Pull, get the top thread, and you're going to tie it off. And I like to do about 4 or 5 because I'm always worried that it will not tie off. And then I'll cut off a little tail, and then I will grab fray check and just as an extra precaution, glue it down. And then we're just going to do this on the other side. This gives it a really clean, professional feel. So pull, and then you just grab. put your needle back on this magnet. All right. And I'm just putting it on the edge. All right. So we pulled our top stitching up and we are good to go. So what they have right here is she wants you to turn your main panel wrong sides up, and she wants you to grab a piece of double-sided tape and run it around the top. This double-sided tape needs to be tape that can be easily removed, because it's kind of like a fitting. But you don't want this double-sided tape to like stay permanently. So in this case, I have this paper one. It's like score tape. It holds for like 5 seconds, and then you can just pull up the glue. It's pretty interesting. All right. So we are going to fold this in on itself. To where our Decaville light ends. We're just doing it within the seam. And again, the reason why we're doing this, it is like a nice little fitting. If you have everything lines up right, then you know it's going to look good when it's finished. So we're going to fold this in on itself and close it. Ooh, that's a strong magnet. Okay, so this is how it's going to look. And then from here, we can figure out how we want to place if you have a handmade logo or a tag. I have this nice green one, and she gives us ideas of where to place it. And I think I'm going to place mine right here. So I'm just going to grab a chalk pencil. And I want to actually get a ruler because I want it to be like exact. I have a tendency of always not having something straight. My piece is always like kind of lean to the side. So I'm going to have that right there. And if you had a metal one, you can this is where you will place it, and just be mindful of where you put your the seam allowance, and you should be good to go. So I'm going to remove that. I'm going to line it up with the mark that I made, and I'm just going to tack this down real quick. It's the same principle, using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I'm going to back stitch. I got my cork tags from Heartwood and Hyde, and I promise you, they are so worth the wait. I could never in 1,000 years would I have thought I would have such gorgeous handmade tags, and they really got my personal aesthetic, like how I like cork. And I'm removing the double-sided tape right now because it is trying to stick to the table. Just get that. And they work at a good spot. And once you got your consultation and you make your first order, if you need, like I was going to say refills, if you need more, you only have a 2-week wait time when you order, which I think is good because they're a small mom and pop company. So I think that's pretty dang good, especially for something custom. All right. So we have that. This looks really cool. I'm going to remove the double-sided tape on this side. See, something that can just be peeled off. All right. This is really beautiful. I like the way this looks. It's so pretty. All right. So now I'm going to put this aside. Now we're going to get to the wallets. The wallets are really interesting because wallets are generally something that I have a hard time with, period. No matter who creates wallets, the stacking them together sometimes gives me a little bit of anxiety, but I assure you, Alexis is like on top of it. She is so good at it. So you're like, hey, Shinobi, yours is already pressed, but I'm going to unroll everything to give you what it is. So She tells you to put like a top. I always put a top so it's easier for me to focus on. By writing top, I know this is the first piece I'm going to fold in. So you're going to, on figure 39 on page 16, there is a starting size, and then the numbers kind of switch from like 2, 1, 2, 1. And then I'm a person that does write her measurements, because again, sometimes numbers get the best of me, and I'm not ashamed to say it. Once you have all of this written down, you bring it to your press. You're going to take the first one and you're going to match that line that you drew with make sure it's not a heat erasable, because then it's all for naught and you have to draw the lines again. You're going to fold it wrong sides together and press. And you're going to basically do that like an accordion. Press, press, and then you do it again. Press, press. Now when you're done, each one of these card slots should be about a 1/2 inch apart. I'm going to give you a really cool tip that I like to do. I have a hard time pressing a straight line. I mean, these little rogue hairs are driving me a little bit batty. So I have a really hard time pressing straight. There's these things called a hot iron ruler. They come in all different shapes. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them at most quilting shops. Basically, they have numbers on the back, but I use like this. So this top one is the first one. I will stick it right on the line and then fold it over and kind of go nice and taut. Kind of like when I pull, you can see how it's kind of trying to bow up, and then press. And this is how I get really crisp lines. This little ruler, I think, depending on where you got them, I have a couple of them ranging from $7 to $14. And this is like one of my favorite tools when it comes down to ironing, because I also use it when I'm hemming or anything. It makes my life easier to have nice crisp lines. So if you're able to get something like that, great. If you're like Shnova, I can't get anything like that. When I can't find my hot ruler, because I'm notorious for losing things, with the first line like this, I would stick my ruler into the line, finger press it, remove the ruler, sliding it, and then press. That's another way I go about it. But that is the most important part, is to get these lines together. So then we're going to take it to the machine, and we are going to top stitch each row. So I'm going to do that at 1/8 of an inch. And I'm trying to trim my threads as I go, because I'm also notorious for having bird nests because I did not trim my threads. And then one more. You're going just 1/8 of an inch. All right. So when we're done top stitching, we're going to take the two ends that are open, and we're going to put them together. Once we do that, we're going to bring them over to our sewing machine and sew it down at 3/8 of an inch. Make sure you back stitch. Then you're just going to turn the tube right sides out. Oh, you could definitely trim this down to 1/8 of an inch. The seam that we just sewed, I apologize, I forgot to tell you that. Trim it to 1/8 of an inch. not cutting into your stitching. And then we're just going to let them fold back onto each other. Easier said than done sometimes for me. I'm making it look harder than what it actually is. Okay. And I'm just going to finger press that seam so it's nice and flat. Okay. So on page 18, we are going to get a ruler and we're going to measure 4 inches by 1/4. Let me get these little rogue hairs and I'm going to get a ruler. And I'm going to measure on one side 4 inches by 1/4. And I'm going to get a chalk pencil and I'm going to make sure everything lines up. That is the key. And I'm going to draw a line and I'm going to sew down. Now, when I sew down, I like to backstitch, of course, in the very first one, but on every card slot, I do one backstitch because for me, I overload my credit cards. I'm not going to lie. So it's a high area that gets a lot of work and friction, and I don't want it to like come undone. All right. So what you're going to do here is you're going to take it over to your cutting board and you're going to cut, you're going to measure out 4 inches off this line. Like, so you're going to go here, measure 4 inches and trim off that 1/4 of an inch and do the same thing on the other side. And your pocket's going to be 8 inches. So I'm going to go to the cutting table real quick and I'm going to measure 4 inches from the first, from the middle stitch. And trim it off. Make sure your ruler lines up. Everything should line up. All right. So we have the one, and that's already done. So this measures now 8 inches perfectly. And then you're going to repeat if you want to have a second card slot. You don't have to have that if you don't want to. It just makes your life a lot easier. And then what you could do is you can give it a nice firm press to just help with the wrinkles and everything. So we have 2 of these. I'm opting for 2. And then we're going to go to page... I can't turn pages. We're going to go to page... page, whatchamacallit? We're going to go to page 19 and we're going to start getting our pocket together. So on our pocket, we have one lining piece, outside lining piece, and then we have one inside lining piece. There we go. And then you would need to grab your zipper pull and your zipper tape. Now on the tape, make sure you measure it exactly at, let's see, I'm going to measure it exactly like it says in the pattern. You need a number 5 and exactly 8 inches. So I'm going to trim my threads and then I'm going to melt. And I like to just take a ruler. I'm not really good at using my ruler on my table. I feel like it's like off and I can't put my finger on what I think is off. So I'm going to go 8 inches and I just take my chalk pencil and I draw the mark, I trim it, and then I melt. Well, I mean, there's no other, yeah, you melt. Well, if my, sorry. If my lighter wants to work, it's not wanting to work. But then you get the drift. You melt it and it's done. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate our pockets, and we're going to have pocket one, and pocket two. Okay. So if you remember, if you have a hard time remembering what the pieces sizes are, what I would always tell people to do is to take like a dog ear, the cutting list, and always like write pocket 2 is the 7x7. It's the smaller one. So we're going to position pocket 2 right sides up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, before I even start, I know how I am. Finding your centers, again, super key. So I'm just going to make a little 1/8 of an inch snip. And then I'm going to find my centers on this 8 inch, which should be just 4 inches. But I usually just take a clip and I just draw it with chalk. I'm going to use this pink one so you guys can see. I feel like finding your centers on any bag is like the make or break. And it's really hilarious because when I look back, when I first started bag making, I would just like eyeball everything. And then I was trying to figure out why something wasn't lining up. Little things like that makes the difference. So we're going to grab some clips and we're going to put pocket 2 right side up. And then we're going to clip the zipper tapes, 2 sides of the opposite sides, zipper teeth up. So make sure your zipper teeth are up. And we're going to put some clips. So wrong sides of the zipper tape touching the right sides of the lining. All right, so we're going to do 1/8 of an inch. And trim those threads. All right, and we're going to do this on the other side. Take your time with this. I know you're like, hey, I'm going to just sandwich it in. Because they're 2 different sizes, you really want to make sure that you base this first one on so nothing shifts and everything's aligned. All these little steps make a beautiful bag, you know? All right, trim, trim, trim. All right, then we're going to take our lining and make sure it is the 8 inches wide, not the 8.5, or it won't match your zipper tape or anything. We're going to put this right sides together. I'm going to clip. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to clip, and it will match. If you have it on the right side, your zipper tape will just match up with the perfect 8 inch zipper. I did it wrong. That's why on the first time. So that's why I keep emphasizing it. All right. So we're going to sew this together down. We're going to sew this at 3/8 of an inch. Back stitch well at the beginning and end. And you're like, Shnova, the lining is like super smaller. And I'll show Alexis performs a Houdini and we're going to be super excited. And you know what? It was really crazy because after I did this task, I was like, I'm going to start doing this to pockets. This makes sense. It reduces the bulk tremendously. And you know how I say, just because you have a machine that can sew over bulk doesn't mean the bulk needs to be sewn over. A bulky seam is a bulky seam no matter what. All right. So we're going to turn this right sides out. Yeah, I know. It looks all weird. It comes together. I don't know how her brain does this. It's pretty cool though. We're going to press all layers away from the zipper tape. And then we're going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch. Make sure that your zipper's not trying to sink in on itself. We're going to do the same thing on this side. You're just shifting and just pressing that nice and tug, like a nice little tug. And I do that because zippers just want to sink in to the seam allowance sometimes. All right. All right, so we're going to do a couple things. We're going to be putting our zipper on a lot. You're going to need to become one with your zipper, and your zipper needs to become one with you. And I really, yes. Do it, fire. Okay. You're like, why are you so excited about fire? All right, so we're going to, if you want your zipper to close from the left, you need to install it on the right. If you want your zipper to close from the right, you need to install it on the left. There's no right or wrong. If you're left-handed or right-handed or ambidextrous, you just might have a preference. Everything is always personal preferences. So I'm installing it on the right-hand side because I would like it to close on the left. Now what I do is I look inside and make sure that my teeth are matching right at that center bar that's inside, and I just push it down. If like this, it's not lined up, I just pull it back and try to do my best to get it all lined up. Sometimes it works better than the rest. So I'm going to zip it off. And we are going to we're going to be making like kind of a top edge. I like mine's about a 1/2 inch wide because it just looks cool. And then once we do that, we are going to press our zipper. So I'm going to grab a pressing mat, a huge one. And I'm going to press my kids hate the way this wool mat smells. They're like, it smells like a zoo. They're not home, so I just thought of them whenever I'm pressing it. And I'm doing it about, like I said, a 1/2 inch. I'm giving it a good press. And while I'm here, what I'm going to do is take my pockets, my zipper pocket, my credit card pockets, and give it a good press. When it comes down to cotton and making bags, pressing is key. Pressing is super key. All right, so we're going to top stitch this so it can stay down. And I'm going to back stitch 1 or 2 stitches. We're top stitching this little lip at 1/8 of an inch. It does smell like a farm, I'm not going to lie. But I'm not opposed to the smell. All right, so then we are going to stitch this carefully. And then we're going to open up our pocket. Now that we press the pocket, you will need to separate the zipper and turn the pockets wrong side out. And we need to find where we press the zipper. This is the lip right here. This is the lip right here. So we're just kind of putting it together. And I'm positioning the zipper tape right on top of each other. And we are going to move the zipper tape out of the way. And we're going to, the way this pocket's going to sit is basically where we pressed. Let me show you. This is where we press to have our edge, right? So when it's closed, it's going to look like this. We're going to turn this inside out to sew down only the lining. So when we flip this inside out, we need to be aware of where our little edges. So when we sew this at 3/8 of an inch, we're not sewing over the zipper tape. We're just sewing over the lining. Just be careful not to sew over the zipper tape. I cannot stress this enough. We're going to sew at 3/8 of an inch only on the lining on both sides. And it could be a little tedious and it could take a little bit of time, but I promise you, you're going to like this end result because it's not going to have a lot of bulk in your... Personally, I think it's easier to sew it coming up. So it's easier for me to move the teeth out of the way and sew from it coming up. And I'm probably going to do that on the other side again because I didn't get as close as I want. Because if you sew too far up, you're going to see it on the exterior. And then you're going to have to remove stitches and it's not fun. Remove those threads. And then we're going to turn this right sides out. It's a little tighter now because you have closed up the lining. And it's all going to be nice and closed up. This part takes a little bit of finesse. And then we're going to add the zipper pull back on. I'm going to be actually adding the zipper pull back on twice. If you have two zipper pulls, it'll be easier to just like kind of thread them as a train and then pull one off and keep one in the middle. So I'm going to zip it off so that's closed. And then I'm going to put it back on so that the zipper can go in the middle. You could just stitch it closed on the other side. It's easier for me to have it all nice and like even the first time. And then I'm just going to trim off these little, I have a lot of fray right now. All right. So then we're going to grab our lining pieces. And again, I implore you to make sure that your lining pieces have, measure them out right. And then if you use Decaville Light on the back to make sure it's out of your seam allowance. We're going to take one main lining piece and we're going to grab our ruler and we're going to position the card 5/8 of an inch from the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it on both sides just in case my ruler shifts. And we're going to take one credit card slot and position it there. So I'm going to take it. Right now, this is when clips are going to be your absolute friend. You could probably put double-sided tape on the bottom to help it stay. I'm just making sure everything lines up. But if your needles get easily gummed up, I just recommend you clipping. And this is why it was so important to make sure all your interfacing was out of your seam allowance because you don't want this to get bulky. I'm going to double check again to make sure everything's lined up at 5/8 of an inch. And it's not. This is why we measure. Okay. All right, we're gonna machine base this down at 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And I'm just gonna back stitch. Take your time. All right. Woo. Okay, I didn't know how I was going to feel with these two combinations, but I've been going a little bit busy lately. I like the way it looks with some contrast. So we're going to now take the zipper pocket that we just made, and we're going to mark a 1/2 inch from the bottom. I'm just going to mark it here and mark it here. And I'm just going to try to keep my ruler as steady as possible. And again, if you wanted to, you could put 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape if you wanted to. I'm going to bring this over on this side. Okay, I seriously like the way this wallet looks. I might have to keep this one. I can't, like my husband's like, you can't keep all the things you make, and I'm like, why can't I? It's my collection. But he's always just kidding, because he's really supportive of my channel, my sewing, my everything actually. So let's go over here. Make sure it's at a 1/2 inch, because you want everything to line up. And there's reasons for these exact measurements. All right. So we're going to machine base this down at 1/8 of an inch. Again, I'm going to back stitch. I always like to back stitch over the zipper tape, and if it's easier for you to use a sewing awl or a stiletto just to help you maneuver, then go for it. It's like whatever can help you, whatever tools in your arsenal that help you. And then I'm just trimming up, making sure there's no overage. Everything is nice and straight. All right, so we have one done on this. So we're going to take our other zipper pocket take our other pocket, and we're going to our credit card slots. We're going to take our other credit card slots, and we're going to grab the other lining, and we're going to position the card of cards 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. And then I'm just going to make a mark. I'm going to use white chalk. And there's the line. I'm going to take my credit card slots and place it right there on top of the line. Clip it. And then I'm going to stitch this down using a 1/8 of an inch. And then pivot, go across. And let's go up. All right. I'm going to trim off any excess that's hanging over, because because I don't want that to go in my seam allowance. Sometimes I think I cut exactly 8 inches and it could be like 1/8 of an inch longer. So then we're going to take our 2 pieces and we're going to put them right sides touching. We're going to sew them right sides touching at 3/8 of an inch for about an inch in both directions. So I'm drawing 3/8 of an inch in and just putting a mark. We're going to have an opening. This opening is going to be where we're going to birth our bag. So I'm going to take it and use it. So we're going to put right sides together, make sure pockets are facing each other the correct direction. They're both all going up and none of their zipper pockets are going down, or your credit card slots. I keep saying zipper pockets. So we're going to sew in at 3/8 of an inch all the way to 1 inch, backing stitch really well. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side and we're leaving this part open. So 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to back stitch and sew over this really, really well. Going to put my needle up and I'm going to bring the threads over to the 1 inch mark that I drew. 3/8 of an inch. Okay. All right, and then you can finger press this open, but I actually like to take it to the ironing board. If you don't have an ironing board, you can finger press it by all means. I'm just going to take my iron and press this seam open. Hit it with a little bit of steam. And I like to take it from the front and just press it open too. I'm going to be pressing it a lot, but I might as well just get it where it feels like it's a permanent press and it knows this is the way it's going to go. You can use a clapper on top of it and that really helps the seams. And when you press your seams, it kind of just locks it in. All right, so we have this all situated. And we're going to go now to page 23. We're going to put these aside and then we're going to grab these side pieces. I love the way they're shaped. They're shaped super cute. And we have 4. We have a lining and 2 exteriors. And on one side, we're going to take our ruler on we're going to retrieve the gusset panel and lining, and we're going to draw a 3/4 of an inch line on one side. And we're going to mirror it on the other side. So I'm going to on the wrong sides. So I'm just going to hold it like this, and I'm going to draw a 3/4 of an inch line on one side. And I'm going to use this bright pink chalk. And I'm going to mirror it on this side. And we're going to do the same thing on the linings. Just have them set up where they're mirrored already, and it'll make your life a whole lot easier. You can use a pen because nobody's going to see it. I'm looking for a pen and eyeballing it, and I couldn't find one. So I'm just using hot pink chalk. Then I'm going to grab some double-sided tape, and I'm going to put it along that one side that we drew lines on all 4 pieces. Just finger press that in. Okay, and we have one more. All right, so we're going to put the mirrored pieces together so the lines go in the same direction, and we are going to clip around and we're going to now start sewing. When we sew, we're going to sew from where we drew into the curve right here, going across and going down at 3/8 of an inch. Back stitching really well at the beginning and end. So we're going to start a little into where we drew on the side where the double-sided tape. And we're going to just sew at 3/8 of an inch, and we're going to take our time, and there's going to be some pivoting. And we're going to back stitch really well, and then when we pivot, we want to make sure we take it one stitch at a time and just be cognizant. One stitch at a time. And then we're just back stitching. All right. And if a line looks a little wonky, like if it does, you can go over it again. Like I'm not too a big fan of what I did there. I should have did smaller stitches. Sometimes when I go into curves, I reduce the stitch by a half. I kind of do that with pockets too, zipper pockets, just to get a cleaner look. And it doesn't hurt to do that. We all make mistakes. It's how we fix them that changes the game, you know? And we're going to do it again on this side, except I'm going to go up and then around. Making sure everything lines up. That's key. All right, let's go. Back stitching really well at the beginning and end. I think, yeah, reducing the stitches helped a little bit. But I'm still going to go over this curve real quick because it got a little wonky. All right. So once we have that all squared away and we trimmed all these threads, which apparently my threads are everywhere. Once we have that, we're going to grab our pinking shears again, and we are going to trim around to 1/8 of the seam allowance. Do not trim in the section that we have the double-sided tape. To 1/8 of an inch. Take your time. All right. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Trim. All right. So then we're going to turn these right sides out. I'm just going to get my little tool right here and let it help me poke out the curves without, poking a hole in it. Take your time. Make sure you don't use something that's sharp. That can mess up all your beautiful work. All right. And I'm just going to finger press this right now. And then I'm going to remove the double-sided tape and fold in to that line we drew. And do the same thing with the lining side. And we're just, all this is coming out so cool and cute. And then I'm going to just make sure everything lines up. And put some clips in it. Now we're going to do the same thing. Before you turn it right sides out, you can take the double-sided tape. I think that would be easier. And just let it fold onto the line. Do the same thing on the exterior. The great thing is that if you've been wanting to play around with like different fabrics and different things, I think this is a perfect bag where you could try like color blocking, things along those lines. I'm just trying to get this one little area to reduce bulk so that when I turn this right sides out, I can do it a little bit more easy. This part takes a little bit of time, but it's worth it. And I think my stitching came undone here. So I'm just going to go back over it. It happens. And just like I said, knowing how to fix the problem is the biggest thing. And there we go. Perfect. And we're going to finger press and then finger press, and then we're going to be all top stitching. So we're going to now go to be on page 24, and we're going to top stitch this all the way around using a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure you clip so that way you can have everything lined up as nicely and neat as you need. And let's bring it to their sewing machine. And I'm going to back stitch the beginning and end. Take your time around those curves. If you have to reduce your stitch length, this is a good time. You have to stop, make sure you pivot. And I mean, you have your needle down before you pivot. All right. We have one more. All right, we have that. Now we're going to grab our main body lining piece, and we're going to put our gussets, positioning lining sides together on this. We're going to find the center seam, and I'm going to match it, lining sides together. You're getting exciting. We're getting close to it being a finished wallet. I'm just going to baste it on. You want to make sure that they line up. So that way that they're even. And it like when you put it together, it's not like, huh, one side looks a little wonky and the other side doesn't. That happens. That happened to me the first time too. Me and the seam ripper were like one with each other at this point. I was determined. I'm like, I'm just going to get this bag finished and it's going to be amazing. And then we're going to grab our little lining piece wings. They're piece number F. And they are going to go right sides together, and we're going to be sewing them at 3/8 of an inch. And I'm just clipping them in place, and I'm going to grab the other one that fell on the floor somewhere. Right here though. Yay! Okay. Our lining piece, and then we're going to sew this at 3/8 of an inch. And when we're done with this, we're just going to give it a nice, firm, good press. Back stitch really well at the beginning and end. And this is a little bulky, but this is the bulkiest part you're going to sew over. The rest will be easy. But this again is why we keep everything out of the seam allowance. And you can go back and just check, like looking at it to see, hey, does this area cover all the raw edges? That's the most important part. You don't want raw edge poking out. All right, 3/8 of an inch, back stitch in the beginning and end. Take your time. You might, if you want to use a walking foot or a composition foot at this time, or switch into a heavier needle. All right. So what I'm going to do first, before we start doing things on, I'm going to show you a couple tricks we're going to do to help reduce the bulk. But first, we're going to press this. I'm trying to put the mat right here. We're going to press this open. We're going to press it all cotton. This is why I would not recommend water resistant or waterproof canvas. I always tell people to maybe try it after the first time they make it, to see if their machine handles the cotton well. Okay. That looks good. I'm going to put this mat down. I have a smaller one, but I think one of my kids took it for something. I'm not too sure. So on this part, after we press it, we are going to want to top stitch this down at 1/8 of an inch. You want to do it along the lining wings. All right. That's looking nice. We are going to then put this together with our pocket, our front and our exterior. So make sure again, you took out that double-sided tape that you had in the beginning, because if not, it's gonna not match up and that won't be good. Oh, what did I do last time? So last time, here's my little tip. I took because your lining and your everything should be matching exactly. So when you do this, you're going to be sewing 3/8 of an inch, and I like to know where to stop and start. That is really important to me. So I made 3/8 of an inch boxes to know when I need to pivot on each edge, so it can be a little bit more crisp. I need to know like where to pivot. If not, I'll just get all lost and and flabbergasted and upset. So I do this whenever I have a sharp corner, so that way I can just try to get the best stitch possible. So now we're going to grab, so this is how you're going to have it. If you want your zipper towards the back, then you would just need to have it laying face up, and then put the flap area right at the top, because that will be the back of your bag. And I like to start by putting all the ends together, and then I start clipping all the way around. Use as many or as few as clips as you want. There's no race, so just do whatever makes it easier for you. So you're not sewing through the bulk right here, you're just sewing through the lining. So it should be a nice, easy sew and very domestic friendly. All right, and I think I am ready to go. I just like to try to get everything lined up as much as possible. Now, when we start, we can start anywhere we want, because we're going to backstitch. I'm just going to start from the side so I can be ready to start curving out on one side, starting at that 3/8 of an inch mark I made on my bag. And I'm going to backstitch 3 or 4 stitches. And I'm going to take my time. This is a very unique shape, and just remember to slow down, pivot, and you'll be fine. And again, I'm getting to that 3/8 of an inch mark that I drew. I'm going to go needle down, and then that's when I'm going to go across. And you can draw the whole 3/8 of an inch out too. If you're like, hey, I like to follow a line I trace. Totally get that. I do that all the time. And needle down. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to trim down the seam allowance to 1/8 of an inch, and we're going to be pinking. Pinking just helps reduce the bulk spread out so that it's easier to top stitch at the end. And it helps with fraying, so especially if you're using cotton, it helps tremendously with fraying too. almost like the sound of scissors cutting. Like, it is like a beautiful sound to me. I know, something's wonky, I know. So when I get to the corners, I'm going to not cut in on my seam allowance, but just help reduce the bulk by going at an angle. And I think I got that really too close on that one. I might do a stitch or two so that way it doesn't act wonky. I'm just going to put a stitch right here. All right. Oops. All right. Let me get all this furs. Put it in my bucket. All right. So now we're going to turn this right sides out. You could take this over to your heating press because the Decovil light, and warm it up first before you turn it. But we're just going to turn it through the pocket. And I like to just try one area at a time. Take your time not to pull too harsh. There's a lot of pockets. Zipper slots. So, and then just slowly start working the other one in. And again, if you take it to your iron and warm it up, it'll be easier to turn because the Decovil light won't be so structured. It's more pliable at that time. I like to make things difficult, so I didn't do that. All right, and I'm going to use my fingers first before I use any tools and just poke out the corners. Okay, and then I'm just going to get my turning tool and I'm going to go inside and I'm going to poke out the corners without poking through. And I'm just going to run my tool around the seam so that way areas can flatten out. Okay. All right. So what I do right here is I'm going to give it a press, and then we're going to work on some of these seams that are a little bit thicker to make it easier to sew. Sorry, the machine has like the smallest table known to man, so I'm going to take my iron and I'm going to hit it with some steam. And remember, I'm going to try to avoid the magnet. All right. And then it doesn't have a really big seam, but I'm going to give you some tips that I've used for seams that are a little bit thicker. I like to use, this is called a leather clamp, and do not get your fingers caught in this. I promise you, you'll get one of those blood blisters. It sucks. I like to go around and I like to press this down. Alexis even says, you know, a pair of pliers. I know a lot of great sewists that do this, so that way they can help just flatten those seams just a little bit more. And I like to do this especially right after I iron and the area is a little warm. And let me get my stiletto. I'm going to see if I can shimmy this one a little bit more without poking a hole out. I think I got it. Yay! And I'm just pressing down the bulky seams. It's not a lot of layers, but anything that can help flatten helps tremendously. So we're going to top stitch. And when we start top stitching, we want to start at a side so we can have long threads to pull the threads so we can have a seamless look. So we're going to start like right here in the middle. And you can increase your stitch length at this time. Long tails. And we're going to start. I'm going to start right here, and it's going to be 1/8 of an inch. And if you want, use a stiletto. Like if there's an area where you think the lining's poking out too much, needle down and like reposition and, you know, fussy around until it gets to the position that you like. Take your time. Whoops. My machine was like, no, no, no. But it's okay. No skip stitches though. Woohoo! It's not that thick of a seam. It's just that it goes from having areas where there is interfacing to none. So walking foot or composition foot would work good. I'm using a skinny foot, which I should have put a composition foot on. I just always sew with the skinny foot, and I am notorious for not changing out my feet. I don't know why. Move the flap out of the way. And remember, we're not back stitching, so once we get to that other part, we're going to leave long threads as well. Okay, we're pivoting to the last section, and take your time. All right, long tails. All right. So what I do is I have my long tails, and I'm going to go. Okay, so you can either go inside and pull these tails from the inside. You can just pull the lining and you can get them. What I do is this, and it might be a little bit unconventional, but it does help. And if this helps you, then I know I did something right. So I'm on the lining side, and I'm where the bobbin threads are. Okay, not the lining, not the top stitching. So I pull, and Loki's going to make an appearance. My bobbin, my top thread up here, I hear you, Papa. I'll be there in just a minute, okay? I love you too. There's no... Okay, just 1 minute, Papa. Nobody would believe how big you are. You're crying. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. He had to use the restroom and more water. So what I do is I pull the bobbin thread up. Pull the bobbin thread up to the top thread, and then I take the threads from together, thread them over with a bigger needle, and I bring them into the interior. You can pull the threads from the interior, both loops. I just had a little bit of a problem with it because of the simple fact that, sorry, I didn't get one thread. The simple fact that I could not reach them, but that could be just me. So I just did the alternative and it worked out for me. So we're going to take our threads that we pulled into the lining, into the inside of the bag, the wrong side, and we're just going to tie them off. And then you can take a bead of fray check, trim this one up. This one, I have like one that's more longer than everyone else, and you can put a bead of fray check in that area where you tied everything off, just to ensure that nothing comes out. So I'm just going to open that, and we got that, and we're good to go. And we can now start constructing the final parts of the wallet. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to close up this lining. Now you can use a number of different glues that you can use. Beacon, Gorilla Glue, whatever you have available. Fabric tack. I'm going to use fabric tack. My fabric tack always has like a nice bubble of glue. Like it's never fully closed. And what I did first was I did a bead of glue down the center and then on either side. And I'm closing this up now. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Just a bead of glue. And do small beads versus a whole bunch, and then you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I close this? And I'm just going to let it fold over on itself and just let that glue hit. And if an area starts lifting up a little bit, just lift it up, get a little bit more glue. Take your time. And the glue works. I let my glue sit for like a couple of hours and it was set. I couldn't separate it. I was like, that is crazy. And the way the wallet's constructed, you kind of don't see it. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to punch holes into the center part right over here. We're going to punch some holes in the top part, corners of each. And my culture does not want to punch holes right now. Let me see if this one will work better. All right, so we're going to punch holes in the corner of our little gusset flaps. And if anything just lifts up, just keep pressing it. If you want, you could put a couple weights on this, walk away and come back in a few minutes. Fabric tack takes about like 10-15 minutes to fully dry, and I always let things cure for a little while longer. All right, so then we're going to do some measuring on the pockets. We're going to, on the corner of each clutch, we're going to be doing a measurement that is stated on page 27. I believe it's figures 118 and 119. And I had so many rulers in the beginning, and they all just like disappeared. It's okay. There you go. It doesn't help that I always pick rulers that are like really, really transparent. So we're gonna place some holes, mark some areas for some holes. About 3/8 of an inch in. And I'm going to grab a pen, because I'm going to put fray check over each hole just to make sure. And it's really all about measurements in this to make sure that everything aligns correct. And I'm using a disappearing ink pen. All right, so I'm going to punch holes. And then on the cotton side, I'm just going to put like a dab of fray check so that way it doesn't fray over time. It shouldn't. It's a precaution I always do. All right. So grab some fray check real quick. And I'm going to put it on the cotton parts that I had for the lining too. All right. So the first thing is, if you want to make this a clutch, you need to get a corset ring. And a corset ring is a metal ring that it's exactly what it's used for, corsets. I could not find any antique one, so I'm going for this blue, not thinking nothing of it. And you're going to put the corset ring on the left hand side or the right hand side, depending on what you want, where the hole is in the interior. So I'm going to grab some rivets, because we're going to need 4 rivets for this project. And I'm going to grab 4 males and 4 females. And I need 1 more female part. All right. So I'm going to take this and thread this through the back of where the zipper pocket is. Thread it through the corset ring, and then I'm going to match the hole that we punched. Oops. I'm going to match the hole that we punched, if I punched it out good enough. All right, there we go. Match the hole, and then put the cap over it, and I'm gonna set it with a rivet press. I got my rivet press from Mikas and Margot. It's a small shop on Etsy. I have had it for like 4 or 5 years, and it's amazing. So we have 1 set. Now we're going to take another rivet and place it on the exterior. Thread it through. You're going to see it on your interior. Thread it through the hole that you created on the gusset. And we're going to press it to set it. All right. Sorry, I have a rogue thread. I'm going to snip that. And then we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to take a Mel rivet, put it through the hole from the exterior, have it come through the interior, and thread it to the exterior gusset wing piece, and put a female cap. And then we set it. And one last time. Exterior. Grab the exterior side of your gusset piece, thread it through onto the rivet, place the cap. And you're ready to go. Oh, that one did not set right. All right, let me get a different rivet. That happens. Sometimes it doesn't set right, and it's fine. That just means that you have to do it again, and that's it. It's not. You just if it pulls away easily, then great. If not, then you can get a pair of wire cutters or bone cutters that they use in corsets, and that could be how you do it. All right, that's set properly. So we have our look at how fly this looks. This is so cute. How cute is this? Oh my goodness, this is so cute. So we're almost done. You can leave it just like this, or we could put a metal trim. But the inside, look at, you have a slip pocket. You have pocket. Oh, in thread apparently. You have a zipper pocket. You have more credit cards and another slip pocket, and it is all closed on the inside. This is a really pretty wallet. I love the shape. I think that it looks just phenomenal. Now, for the trim options, I bought my trims from Emmeline Bag. We can go full-fledged big metal one, which I'm kind of steering towards, or we can just do a little. And also, if you have those corner bookends, it will look cute right here too, just to have a little bit. But you don't have to have an accent. My first one didn't, but I'm kind of like feeling the bigger trim. So let's go for it. I'm going to open this up. And you don't want to lose the screws. I have a tendency of doing that. So if you have a magnetic bowl, or sometimes what I do is I grab like the scissors and put the screws inside a loop so I know. You want to, before you even take the screws out, you want to make sure that everything fits inside here. If it's too thick or too thin, and actually if it's just right. All right, so I am going to mark this, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue inside my my trim. So when I put it on, I know it's that extra security of being firmly on. Just a little. You don't have to do this. It's just something that I do. I usually put it in the center, and that's it. So that way, if I move the piece, you put it all the way to edge to edge and it doesn't fit and you're moving it, now you have glue on parts that didn't need glue. And that's not fun. So I'm going to grab a screwdriver, and then I'm going to open up these mini screws and hope that they don't spill out everywhere. I'm just going to stick them inside the hole of the scissors so that way I don't lose them. Emmeline's really good about giving you extra screws too, because sometimes you lose them or they don't fit, and it's unfortunate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I have this positioned the right way, and the holes are on the interior of the bag, and I'm going to just slide this in and see why now I'm positioning it. This is why I wait and to only glue in the center Okay, then I'm going to take my an awl or a stiletto and just poke a hole where this is going to be screwing in. And I take one screw at a time. And I screw it in. Now, you could put like a Loctite, or like I'm flinging this open like I don't want to keep the screws in place. You can put a Loctite over the screws. I normally don't, but I've never had a screw come unloose, but there's always a first time for everything. So a lot of the people that I admire that are bag makers, they do this. So, sorry, my dogs are like, hey, you're filming, so we want to act like baby puppies. They are baby puppies. Well, I mean, they're not really baby puppies. I just, I treat them like they're baby puppies. See, and there's 2 extra screws, and I keep those. I put them in a little magnet bowl, and that's on top of my machine. So in case one something disappears when I'm screwing something in with a similar color, I always have extra screws on hand. I appreciate Emmeline bags doing that because sometimes you can just have a bad screw too. So we have this beautiful trim. Ooh, yeah. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. This is a nice looking bag. All right. So then the last step is we're going to, after we put the metal trim, is that we're going to make a wristlet if you're doing so. So this is 2 inches and I'm going to draw a 1-inch center line. I'm going to put my screwdriver up, move this to the side real quick, and draw a 1-inch line. And I'm using cork for the wristlet. I just thought it would be cute. I had a little bit of this in my scrap bin and I was like, perfect. We're going to fold raw ends on itself. Now, you can fold it in and do clips. You can use double-sided tape like I'm going to do right now. I'm going to use double-sided tape on both sides of the line that I drew, so I could stick it down. I also like the fact that on this particular bag, Alexis did not have us sew down 1/8 of an inch both sides. And at first I was like, why are we not doing both sides? And then when I seen how the strap came out, I totally appreciated it. It gave it a different look. And because if you can use some contrasting thread, it's going to look amazing. Just folding this. And just leaving a 1/8 of an inch gap in between. So when you fold it, it doesn't like have an immense amount of bulk. And I'm going to take this to the machine and I'm going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch and I'm going to back stitch in the beginning and end. We're only going down one side, so have fun. It would even look cute if you have some decorative stitching just to make it pop, like a flower or hearts or a cute zigzag. Why not? The world's our oyster, right? All right. So we did our 1/8 of an inch and we're going to trim and we're going to grab our swivel hook. That's a 1/2 inch. And we are going to we're going to thread this through and we're going to fold it over an inch and then fold this on top. And then we're going to just punch a hole through all 3 layers. sandwiching and everything. We're going to grab a rivet. Sorry, my puppies are... There's construction work going outside too. So they're just like all over the place today. And I feel bad because, you know, their ears are so sensitive and they hear so much and they want to protect the house. That's like what a dog does. They want to protect the people they love. So they're on a little barking edge. All right. And I'm going to set it. And there you have it. We have a gorgeous wallet. This wallet has, we have a nice trim feature, and I showed you 2 other options you can do. You have the inside that has your lined, you have a lined zippered pocket. You have what, 12? More than that. There's 16 card slots because there's 4 card slots. Yes. And then 2 slip pockets. And it just comes together really beautifully. You have nice accent. If you choose different colors for the accent wings, it can just pop out. I actually think when you see the pictures, I think I'm going to try to find my antique. I could not find it, but I'm going to try to find it and just reset this rivet with an antique one. I thought the blue would be cute, but now because I have all the antique hardware in, I definitely want that. You'll see it, if it looks different on the thumbnail, you know why. So that is it. This wallet comes together brilliantly. If you have any questions in reference to this bag, clutch, and wallet, please leave a comment down below. If you are planning on making it, tell me what fabrics you're going to be using. If you want to see this, if you want to see another bag from Oro Rosa being made, I will put the playlist. And if I haven't made a bag that from Oro Rosa that you want to make, comment down below. So I really appreciate you sewing along with me, and I hope everyone has a fantastic day. Make good sewing choices, and I will talk to you guys all later. I will have all the information on where to get this pattern and the link to get it in the description box, as well as I have Ko-fi. If you were like, hey, I couldn't make this bag without you, Shnova, I really want to give you a coffee. I'll put my Ko-fi information in the description box, and as well as a pinned comment in the top of the chat. I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.